Hello and welcome everybody to Homeschool Connect Expo. Thank you for coming out to either Facebook or YouTube and checking out our videos. We are live right now, so you might be watching us live. And if you are, all the links are down below on Facebook and YouTube. You can go right into homeschoolconnectexpo.com, right into our online learning fair that's going on all month of June. And then also you can go right into Learning Center Online, who we're going to be speaking with, Craig, an awesome guy that does all kinds of science things and beyond. He's been doing it 25 plus years, I think actually over 30 years on some things. So thank you for joining us. Hit share, hit like, subscribe, whatever you need to do. Keep on getting out there. We've had some huge months of people that are jumping on to Homeschool Connect Expo to try to figure out how to add into their homeschooling curriculum, and that's why we're doing this online learning fair, to let you know that you are not alone. So thank you again. Keep on sharing. If you have a question during the live, ask the question, and I will ask that to him. So let's bring him on so he can introduce himself and his company. So, all right. Hey, Craig, how are you doing?
How you doing, Sam?
I was telling everybody about you. I loved our conversation last month. Everybody who's watching it, you're going to love this because it's a great opportunity. And what he does is amazing about trying to get your kids to learn and love learning. And because it's just not about science. But why don't you introduce yourself and introduce the company, and we'll start there.
Well, my name's Craig Riesen, and my company is Learning Center Online. It's a play on words, Learning Center CTR, Learning CTR Online. Those are my initials, Craig Thomas Riesen. So most people are looking for a learning center when they need some help. And so I thought it was a great little play on words. And I've taught in public school for 25 years. I taught online for 6 years, and I had a 9-year stint as a kind of like a domestic missionary, where I was teaching there too, but not officially in a school capacity, academia. I'm certified in chemistry, physics, and biology. I have taught all of them for a minimum of 10 years. Chemistry, I've taught 25 plus years. Physics, about 12. And bio, which actually was my major, I've taught the least, about 10 years. I've also taught earth science about 10 years. So I can teach them all. I'm certified in 3. The only one I'm not certified in is earth science. But I'm marketing myself as offering science courses, but also offering review classes with an expert, as well as tutoring. I offer science demonstrations. I offer science labs. I offer study skills. So we'll talk more about that as the interview goes on. So, Sam?
Yeah, thanks. If you missed last month's interview that I had with Learning Center Online, go back. I'll link it out so you can go back and watch it and learn all the stuff that Craig has to offer. And it's amazing. Go out to the exhibitor booth. You'll see all kinds of information there. Click on the website, go out, and there's just even more information on all the things that he teaches on the science realm. But what you do is amazing. And I loved our conversation last time about, this thought of you're teaching science or physics or bio, but you're teaching them other items. You're teaching them the love of learning. You're teaching them, how to learn. You're teaching them. So it's not just something, and it's great for families who can, who might not know science, that they can have a learning center, like you said, have something that you can help them teach this. Now, is it just for high school students?
I teach middle school and high school.
Middle
So
school, high school.
basically 7th through 12th grade. My courses, I only teach 3 courses starting in the fall. I teach physical science, basically 7th, 8th grade. And then biology, usually is 9th, 10th grade, chemistry, 10th, 11th grade, physics, 11th, 12th grade. So those are ones. I'm not teaching the biology this year because it's too much on my plate. So I'm going to do that next year. So I'll teach all 4 of those sciences next year. So
Okay.
it's the middle and the high school.
Okay. And what I love about it is you're also very flexible on, you can take the courses and everything else, but then you also do, is it tutoring?
Yes.
If they have a course, or if they have something, if they've already bought into a system,
Right.
you actually do tutoring as well, correct?
Yeah. So let me talk about that a little bit. Way back when I would take week-long workshops, and it happened to be physics at the time. I worked with Western Michigan University, so the head of the physics department happened to be a Christian. It was quite nice, and we spent a week together. And I did that 3 different summers. And the one thing he said was quite interesting to me, and it has stuck with me ever since. And I've always taught that way, but that just confirmed. He said the thing that colleges want is a student who knows how to think critically. So they're really not interested in all the stuff you memorize and whether you can do all the little problems that were given to you throughout high school. They want to know, can you think? And so in my case, I have always taught from an inquiry-based perspective, meaning I don't lecture. When I do lecture, it's very brief, but it's always going to be then put into question form, like a Socratic method, where I'm going to ask you questions and you're going to answer me. And then, so you're going to basically take ownership of your learning. And although in most high schools, it's very, very difficult to do inquiry on any depth, but at least I'm doing the basic level, which for instance, students will ask a question. Oh, pick me. Okay. Mr. Riesen, how do you find velocity? Well, to be honest, most teachers, which aren't really teachers, but they're called that because they got a degree and everything, they will answer the question. That's not teaching.
Yeah.
Okay. I will ask you the question back. Well, what are you given? You're asking me about velocity. What are you given here? Oh, I'm given a distance and a time. Oh, okay. Is there a formula or an equation that helps you figure out the velocity when you know the distance and the time? Yeah, velocity is distance over time. Plug in the numbers. Boom, you get the answer. You figured it out. And all I did is I prodded you a little bit.
Yeah.
That is the basics of inquiry, and I teach that way. So then what I have realized, and Sam, you mentioned this, a lot of parents, you've done your research, you've gone out, you've looked on the internet, you've talked to your friends, your brothers and sisters in Christ, you've done your job. So then you settle into a co-op or a community. And on one hand, it's hard for me because I'm now trying to break into a new field. I'm literally saying, look, I'm offering science courses with me, the teacher, live. Okay, Zoom, we use Zoom. But it's going to be live just like this. There will be interactions once a week, and the whole course is mapped out, and it's really a great thing. But I'm new, and you don't know me. All right. So what I realize is parents, you're committed to a certain curriculum, like I've heard of classical conversations. What's the one that begins with A? My mind is blank here. The big famous one. What is it? Anyway, I forgot.
Oh yeah. I just drew a blanket the same
Well,
way.
there's a ton of them out there, but
Yeah.
the Christian curriculum, and we wouldn't want to stray from that because you researched it, you picked it. But especially when you get to high school, parents are realizing math and science is beyond me.
Yeah.
And I really can't prepare my child. And this was the problem with the curriculum, the Christian curriculums that were put out there. And I don't know why it skipped my brain right now, but I'll think of it after the interview's over.
Monarch?
No, it begins with an A. I know that. It's one of the
yeah.
big ones. Anyhow, they were very weak in especially chemistry and physics because they didn't push the math component. Parents weren't used to that, so they kept it, relatively simple. The problem is kids went to college and they really suffered. They really struggled. So I know where I was teaching, and I still do that. We don't water down the math at all. Okay, we keep it in the curriculum. And so, all right, you have your curriculum already set. You're established. You've got your co-op. You've got your community. So where does a guy like me come in? Well, I'm an expert, certified, physics, chemistry, biology, minimum 12 years of experience in any of them. So what about a tutor now? Okay, I can tutor, right? And I tutor not just the subject area, and this is what we mentioned first. I always tutor to show you how to think critically. Let me show you a picture here. Can I share a screen here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oops, got to hit the share button here.
AOP.
Share screen. Let's see. Am I sharing anything yet? Oh, there it is.
Nope.
Should be this one, I think. Take me a second.
There we go.
And does that make sense?
Yep.
I'm trying to, my site. Oh, there it goes. All right. So when I tutor, I can tutor anything. And I don't have earth science listed here only because it's the only one I have not been certified in. However, I've taught it for over 10 years, so I'm comfortable teaching that as well. But look what I tutor.
It is only showing the background.
It's not showing tutoring, learning center, and all that.
No, I just see the ocean picture.
You see the ocean though.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because they're supposed to be typing on top of it. So what am I doing wrong here?
Let's see.
Let me come out of it for a second. You see me back. That's weird. Did I hit the wrong thing when I hit share?
It might have been the
share
you can
screen.
do the entire screen.
Share screen works best on a good computer. Share audio. Follow these steps. I mean, oh, I see what I did. Try it again. How about this?
There we go.
I shared it to my monitor. Sorry.
Oh.
Sorry. All right. So tutoring. Let's try this again. I can tutor life science, physical science, biology, chem, and physics because I'm certified and experienced in all of those. I don't have earth science listed only because I'm not certified in earth science, but I have taught it for over 10 years. So I'm comfortable tutoring in earth science. When I tutor, however, I don't just tutor the content. I go way beyond the content. I will tutor your child into study skills, note-taking, focus, concentration, building confidence. I call it the KISS method. Keep it simple. How to keep in step with the scientific principles. Problem-solving strategies, because that's one of the biggest issues with young people today. They get to a word problem and they freak out. I have a surefire, works phenomenal method. There are a couple other methods that I teach on how to rearrange multiple variable equations that are very simple. It takes the math pain away. I teach how to take tests. So I would tutor your child after they take a test. We'll go through the test together, and I'll show them how to think critically while they're taking the test, some strategies while they're taking the test, and how to debrief that test afterwards. So all of it is about synthesis, analysis, and evaluation. Those are the big words. In common terminology, it is learning how to adjust your thinking, learning how to break the bigger pieces into small parts that you can handle, and prioritizing what is the most important aspect. And if it sounds familiar to you, it should. This is like Bloom's taxonomy. I believe in it. And this is what I teach here. Can you see the triangle, Sam?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can say, I always focus on what are the big things first. Prioritizing means you got to know what's most important. Otherwise, you're going to study thousands and thousands of leaves on a tree, and you still don't know what the tree is. Okay, you got to know the tree first. And that's the big ideas. And then you go to major points and eventually to the minor points to see how it all fits together. So this is the tutoring aspect that I hope people pick up on. If you want an experienced, excellent learning tutor, that's me. And now that's $60 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's very reasonably priced. I've checked tutors where I live, they're $75 to $100 an hour for when you get to students that are at the higher level. But there's something else I offer that's very important. It's called a recitation. Okay, recitation in college, this is a common terminology. When you take a physics class or an upper level chemistry class, they will often couple it with a recitation class. It's just a review class.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get to go there with a TA or a graduate assistant, and they're there to answer all your questions. They can give practice tests and stuff to get you ready for the actual course content. So this is not a course. It's kind of like office hours, except you're getting an expert in the field. And I've heard from many parents that this is something they'd really want. They may not be looking for a curriculum, because I do offer the courses, right? If you see on my website here, I offer chemistry, physical science, and physics courses where we meet once a week, and I teach live. You see me, I see you. And I map out the whole course. Every detail is there. But what if you already have that? What if you already have the curriculum you desire? Then this recitation class becomes a real viable option for you. It's where we would meet. I'm even willing to meet with one student at a time for like 15 minutes a week or a half hour every other week. And therefore, I can offer it at a very reasonable price, like $240 for a whole year, because it's short. And if we couple with other students, that's the best, where we actually get a class, get 3 or 4 or 5 kids together, then you've got a collaboration going on, plus you get a longer time then. We could up it up to maybe an hour to an hour and a half long, depending on the number of students, and to help you. So I'm hoping that parents will see that. You know what? My students taking science with a person. Here's an expert, me, Learning Center Online, that could really augment my child's learning, especially with the critical thinking piece.
Yeah, and that's really important. If families, if you're watching, if you're looking for the path of college, and you want your kids to get ahead and take I don't know, take advantage of the advantage of homeschooling. A recitation class is amazing. One, they're going to understand what it is, before they get to college, but then they're really going to really know how to break it down, those classes, to the review part. So they're just going to be one step ahead and just the thinking, but then on top of it, like what Craig was saying was the critical thinking. I just wish all the social media had that triangle during this last year when we're talking about critical thinking of COVID and some of these skills, because you just see people fighting, and whether they're always stuck at the top or whatever of the learning triangle there. But I love that, because I do hear from people saying, hey, we have AOP. I think that was it, right?
Yeah, it's actually a Becca. I was thinking of a Becca. But AOP is another big one. And there's several out there.
Yeah, there's a ton of them. And you do have science, you do have math, you do have other things out there. But what Learning Center Online provides you is, on top of that, if you've gone that route to make it easy and everything else, which is a great way to do it, but if you have that, you're going to need some type of tutor or live person, or the recitation class is amazing to be able to kind of go in and review what you're learning, and your kids are just going to be ahead of everything. And you have that expert, that person, on top of everything else. So I'd love that you have those things on top of your curriculum that you have as well, which is excellent. Unbelievable.
And let me emphasize again, because here's the major difference between someone with me, my experience, and my paradigm of delivery. You can sit before a tutor, and again, most tutors are not good teachers.
No.
They sit there and they say, oh, here's the equation, here's how you do it. They give you the answer. And I'll give you an example. For fun, this is the truth, I've rebuilt my whole house. I've remodeled my whole house. Because I've taught chemistry and physics. I do my electrical work. I do my gas work. I do the plumbing. It's scary, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But I know how to problem solve. I know how to go on Google and figure out what I need. I knew how to do all those things. So I took a job, part-time job. That's all I want. Since I'm always living at a hardware store, I've got one literally right down the street. So I walked in the door and I said, hey, I'm a semi-retired teacher. I've rebuilt my house. I've lived in here. I would love to help you guys out. I mean, as soon as I finished that sentence, the lady said, you're hired. So they hired me. And this is the truth. All these people, they're the sweetest people on earth. They're really good to me there. Okay. Why not? Look at me. I'm grandpa. I'm literally the oldest guy there. But you know what? None of them are teachers. So I had to do cashiering. I have to do all kinds of different chores. And what they'll do is they come and they do it for me. See, here's how you do it. Do this, do that, do that. And I'm just sitting there going, yeah. Especially now, when you get up in the 60s, your memory's not what it used to be. But let me tell you how I do learn. And I'll tell you how most kids learn. And I did this the other day. I had to do a fishing license for someone. And it's all software. And I watched. They wouldn't let me do it. I literally went up to my boss and said, please, can you stand here, but let me do it?
Yeah.
And I went to the machine and I looked at it. And all she was there was saying, okay, what do you need to find? I need to find a website. Okay. See, she led me through it, but I did it.
Yeah.
That's the recitation class. That's the way I tutor. And that's the way I teach. I don't give the answer. It frustrates kids most kids are used to that.
Yeah.
So when they first have me, like in a course, they get quite frustrated. Well, where's the answers? You don't need me for that. You buy a book that has the questions and all the answers. What do you need anybody for?
Yeah.
If you want a deeper level or a higher level thinking, you need a teacher like me, because I do it knee jerk. This is the way I carry myself. My kids, I have 3 children. They're outstanding students. So that says everything right there.
Yeah.
Because they would come to me, Dad, help me with this. And they got the same thing. Well, what's the problem? Well, I need this. Well, what are you given? Okay. Yeah. What method or formula works?
Well,
plug it in.
Plug it in and do well. And it's funny that you mentioned that. I was out and about speaking with some people around our community, and around here and probably where you're at and everywhere else. There's a hiring situation going on where companies and businesses and restaurants have to shut down early because they can't find enough people.
Right.
And some of the people I was talking to, and they were like, it's really not, we could kind of find some people, but we don't have time to train them. We don't have trainers. We don't have anyone to show them what to do. So if you go some places, I literally watched one kid just go in circles. I mean, he was spinning in circles inside the restaurant because he didn't know what to do. He didn't know where to go, and he didn't have a critical thinking of like, okay, they need me here or whatever, and there was nobody to train them, and it's just stopped part of the economy.
Let me butt in again here, because you're really hitting, I think, a very crucial nerve of our country. Not only did COVID make a mess, but it's not just COVID. I've talked to a lot of older business owners. It's really sad when they say, I will not hire someone under 30 years old.
Yeah.
And this is exactly the reason why. not only they don't have the critical thinking skills to figure stuff out, to problem solve, okay, they don't have the desire because that's not the way they were taught in school.
Yeah.
They were taught a certain way. It's really a damage to them. So you parents that are out there, please, you have to know that critical thinking is the top learning that all of us can get, whether it's physics, chemistry, grammar, math, social studies. It's all the same. I mean, look what our politicians have done to our country. It's because they don't think critically. They go off on a wall based on who's paying them, who's supporting them, who do they answer to.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to see the whole picture, and they certainly don't portray it to us. So you don't know what to believe when you watch the television. You don't know what to believe when the newscaster comes on. Even ones that you respected, it's hard to know, are they really presenting the whole picture so that we can make an informed decision? That all comes from learning. And learning is all about our thinking capacity. And then let's link it one more step. That becomes the foundation stone of our spiritual experiences. If we don't know how to think critically on a human level, on an academic level, this is a rhetorical question. Do you really feel you're going to understand the scripture spiritually the way God wrote it and the way he wants to enliven it? And I can answer the question for you. Absolutely not.
Well, and if you go back to that 30-year-old age, millennial and younger, when you look at what's happening inside the church, when you look at what's going on, and more and more people coming out as ex-evangelicals and all this other stuff, it really is because there is no critical thinking. Because they don't know, they've given up to where worship is 100%, and they don't need to know the Bible, and then they can get swayed very easily, and they have no clue what it is. And now you have the pronouns, and you got you start adding on to this all this extra stuff, and they don't have a way to go through and critically think about it. And you're absolutely right. I mean, and that's, that's the most important part of our walk in our life is knowing God and Jesus and understanding the Bible, for ourselves. And that's why I love what you do is the critical thinking, the learning to loving to learn and how to learn. Because those things go everywhere, and so I applaud what you're doing and how you're doing it. And I love that you've been able to, provide services out there for everybody. And even the ones who already have curriculum, who might not need your curriculum, it's really awesome what you do.
So Sam, do you see the triangle again?
Yeah.
All right. Let me take what you're saying and again show you the kind of teaching that I would have. Let's take an extreme, because in my family, I was the first to actually go to college on my own and graduate with a really good grade. My siblings and my parents didn't. They didn't go to college. Let me show you the difference. It's not that I'm better than they are. I'm not. Okay. It's also not that they aren't successful. My brother was a very successful, it's called a journeyman. He's the guy that worked on the electrical lines.
Yeah.
Here's the difference. You see this triangle here. Okay. The height that this triangle reaches, if it's going to be stable and strong to withstand the storms, you need a broad base. Okay. Here's the problem. When you don't get educated in terms of higher level critical thinking, your base is going to be very narrow. Mm-hmm. And think about what that means in terms of the potential and the strength of that building which is yourself, okay, in the future. And here's what happens. You get people who don't know how to think critically. That's the adjust piece, the analyze, break it into pieces piece. And what's the most important piece? You're going to have people who are very easily intimidated.
Yeah.
And everybody deals with them. You know, we say this as a kind of a poor stereotype, but unfortunately, it's very true. We'll look at a very elderly person and we literally will say, he's set in his ways. You know, you're just not going to do anything about it. I hope nobody ever says that about me.
Yeah.
Because that is a real discredit to Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Jesus Christ is eternal. That means there's no end to the growth. There's no end to the learning process. So here we got older people, they've stopped growing, and we all know it. And we even know that, all right, we just got to play their game. No, that should not be the case. And folks, it starts when you're young. If you want this piece at the top of this triangle, you need a broad base at the bottom. But why is the broad base? It's for the top piece. It's to learn how to prioritize. Even think about the Lord. It's the same thing. When do you listen to the Lord versus your church? When do you know the difference? Yeah. You've got to be able to think critically. And the Lord never did anything the same twice. If you read the New Testament, people always accuse, the Bible's full of contradictions. Well, when you look at it outwardly, you have to agree. I'll give you one example. The Lord's brothers were like kind of mocking him a little bit for all the miracles he was doing. And there was a big feast coming up. And they say, hey, you go to the feast and show off. And the Lord literally said, not going to the feast. You all know where I am, right? John 7. Okay. And literally within a few hours, the Lord went to the feast. So an unbeliever or an agnostic would look at that and say, see, contradiction. Jesus lied. Did he lie? No way. Those of us who know him, those of us who understand how the Father works, the Lord was thinking critically. He was free to follow his Father. And at that moment, when his brothers were mocking him, no, I'm not going. But after a short period of time, he had a new leading, and he was able to take it because the priority was always the Father. Father always gets priority over everything else.
That's cool. That's one, that's a great lesson. And two, I love what you said about the older gentleman, the stuck in their ways, and Jesus being forever. And that's awesome. I mean, that's huge. And
it's not free, Sam.
Yeah.
We think here's another huge fallacy among Christians too. We all think everything's automatic. You believe in Jesus, hey, it's all automatic. I'm going to heaven. It's all set. That's not how it works. The Lord tells us to work out our own salvation. He tells us to study to show ourselves approved. Why would he do that if it doesn't matter?
Yeah.
Because it does matter. So the way you learn, I think, is just as important as the aspect of learning. Yeah. So, my students taking school. That's right. I'm homeschooling. Wonderful. I got a great curriculum. Wonderful. Do you still have the top way of learning? And that's where Learning Center Online is all about critical thinking. It's about offering whatever it takes. I have hundreds, literally, of science demonstrations. I know for a fact, being a 40-year educator, I started teaching in 1980. 1980, okay? It's hard to find good demonstrations.
Yeah.
You can go online, you get them, but they're very particular to whoever's doing it. So I've streamlined them, trimmed them down, added labels, added titles. So you know exactly, here's the concept, and here it is live and in color. And you watch it and you're like, oh, okay, now I understand. Density, two pop cans, one sunk, one floating. And then you pull them out and you put them on the triple beam balance or the mass scale, and you see that one has more mass than the other one, where their volume's the same. And all of a sudden you got a whole lesson there right in front of your eyes. You get it. You understand it. hundreds of demonstrations, hundreds of labs. Labs are so hard to come by.
Yeah.
I'll hear kids, especially homeschool. A lot of these homeschool kids, man, they're inquisitive. They're curious in the right way.
Yeah.
Well, do they have labs that they can dive into that really work, that they'd be willing to do? I've got hundreds of them. They're all tried and tested, and I'm working on new ones. So this is a lot of the part that's so important with learning, and I hope some people can take advantage of that.
Yeah, and I hope they do, because like you said, the labs are really hard. Trying to find hands-on is really hard. And I've seen some of your labs, and they're really cool. I mean, they are really, really cool to be able to provide and remember. And there was things that I remembered, kind of going back. And it was a demonstration. It was a lab that I did, and it just struck with me so much that it carried me on, even in college, because I could visually see what it was, and
exactly right,
and I and that's how I remembered it. And it was just a teacher, and he probably didn't even remember doing it or whatever, but man, it stuck with me. And that's the cool part about this. And the labs, and the kids, they might not be scientists, they might not go on to anything else, but you know what, as homeschool parents, to be able to get some of these labs and learn about science and learn about other stuff, that's going to help them out. If they're a chef, in the kitchen, they're going to be able to understand some of these things, and just so much. I mean, I just threw the chef one out there. It's an amazing thing. It's really cool. So everybody that's here, go out to the link, go out to Homeschool Connect Expo, check out the exhibitor booth for Learning Center Online, and go out to the website, chat with him, talk to him, send him something. Let him know, and ask some questions.
Can you see this? You see what I got here?
Let me add that here. There we go. Yep, I got it now.
Here's just science demonstrations, and in the chemistry and physical science, you can see how many demonstrations alone I have.
Yeah.
When I study for a test, and when I teach kids how to study for a test, I always tell them you need the big ideas first, which usually are called objectives, or module principles, whatever, the big things, the top objectives. You start there, and then you develop pillars to support those objectives, major points. Okay. Then you need minor points, and those you could take forever learning all the minor points. That's where the demonstrations and the labs come. I found that when I memorized illustrations, demonstrations, labs. So let me show you the lab page. I remembered, just like Sam said, I remembered what was going on. And so you can see I have all these labs, because that's why we do them. It's visual learning. It's auditory learning. It adds so much more than just the mental cognizance. And those are the things that when I got on a test, and I was like, I'm not sure what this question really is. All of a sudden I said, okay, but we had to do it in class. I had to have studied it. I'm telling you, the labs and the demonstrations were the things that brought me usually to the right answer. I got real good at answering questions that I wasn't sure of when I started the test. Mm-hmm. Okay. Speaking of which, when I take a test, I take it 3 times. It is a scientific method of taking a test. That's another study skill I could teach your children, and it works. It's phenomenal. I decreased my study time, I'm telling you, by 100%. When I went to college and I studied biology and chemistry, I started spending, it was ridiculous. I would spend 30 hours studying for one test. Eventually, I got it down to 4. Didn't matter what I was studying for, because I knew exactly the most important things. I picked the major pillars of supporting ideas, and I memorized the demonstrations and the labs as my minor points. And so I would get to a test, I would go through the test, and I would do all the easy questions first to build my confidence. Okay. And then I would go through the test a second time, and I would carefully try to answer every other question, but I would leave the hard ones or ones that I'm like, I would leave those for last. And then the last time through, I'd be like, oh, I'm not sure what to do here. That's when the labs and the demonstrations came into play. And it was amazing. I used to, blindly guess, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I stopped doing that. I started making answers that made sense based on the labs and the demonstrations and the content that I had studied. And I started getting 50+% right of questions I wasn't even sure about. That's pretty dang good. When you're talking about, before, let's say I had an 80%, but I still had 5 or 6 questions to go. You get 3 out of those 6, and all of a sudden I'm at an A. I'm at a 90. It really makes a difference. That's all part of this critical thinking piece. But like you said, it's bringing in those demonstrations, the labs, because those are unforgettable. I'm going to forget all the picayune details.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember Rebecca at the beginning of this show. But I can tell you something. I can tell you today how to wire the electrical box. I can tell you how to fix my washing machine. I can tell you all those practical things that I watched demonstrations and I did it myself. I got it.
Yeah, and that's why YouTube's so valuable. But it was velocity and the mass. When you showed one of your labs there, showed the velocity and mass, and that's what. That was the one that did it for me. I went to Purdue for engineering, and we were in the very beginning. I just remembered that because it was just very vivid how he built this whole system up, and there, part of it was I wanted to design cars, and so we were taking this one class, and it was talking about why do drunk drivers usually live and the people they hit die. And there was all these thoughts, and it was like, the blood alcohol and this and everything else, but it goes right back to, they usually don't stop. Everybody else stops.
That's right.
You got the velocity and the mass, and it doesn't matter.
Momentum. Yep. Right there.
And it just went straight down to that. And so I had that win, and then we were designing a car, and the car was lighter, softer, nicer, super safe, and everything else. And they were like, all right, we're going to win. And I'm like, yeah, but if something hits it and everything else, and they're like, no, it's super safe. I'm like, but the energy has got to go somewhere. So they put a test dummy in, and that safe car would have exploded a person basically through the energy, because it was going to go through the body, and it was like, and everybody was like, why didn't we think about that? I'm like, I saw the lab. I saw
it. Yeah.
And it was like, that I would love a safe car, and everything else, but we have to make it where the energy goes somewhere instead of the body, and I'm like, that we made one of the most dangerous cars out there, trying to make it super safe, and
this feeds back to what we were sharing earlier about critical thinking and even versus politics.
Yeah.
So much of what is spoken is untested. It's not demonstrated. It's not experimented. They're just saying stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, what's coming out in the news now was already there a year ago, but this whole COVID thing, how it happened, it's kind of atrocious.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. People just said things. They called it science and data. It was not science and data. It was not critical thinking. It was making statements without supporting evidence, without demonstrations, without experimentation. So these pieces, when in physical science, I showed you 150 different demonstrations.
Wow.
When I teach the course, there's over 50 labs incorporated. And that doesn't include, there's another 25 to 30 that is not forced. They're all optional.
Yeah.
So there's close to 100 labs in all my courses, because I believe in the hands-on part, and I know most students do too.
Yeah.
Some are really academic. Some are really academic, and we need academia. But I'll tell you something. I do not want the guy that got a 4.0 in medical school as my surgeon.
Yeah.
I want the guy who knows how to think, because no two bodies are exactly the same.
Mm-mm.
The blood flow, it all changes. You got to be able to adjust.
Yeah.
You've got to be able to take a big picture and break it into little pieces that make sense when you're in the crunch and you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And more
yeah, you don't want to hear the doctor just say,
and and the most important thing is, what's the highest priority? Keeping this patient alive. So that means we got to do this first and that second. That's all critical thinking.
Yeah.
And it's not taught in schools. It's because it's too hard and you get in trouble. Yeah. Parents don't like it because, wait a minute, you're supposed to be teaching my kid. And that means just give them the dang information, let them spit it back. Yeah. Versus you ask them, you give them the opportunity to learn for themselves, where eventually they get it. It takes longer, but it retains, it stays with you. The retention of inquiry-based learning is at least 5 times greater than pretty much all the other pedagogies combined.
Yeah.
You know, spit back lasts what? You'll remember 8% of what you learned.
Oh yeah.
8%.
You know, and that was one of the things and I think why a lot of homeschoolers or people looking to homeschool are really worried about homeschooling is because they don't remember anything in high school, you know, or maybe 8%, but you know, you know, and that's why I love, you know, my 3 kids are grown. You know, my son who is, he's 20. He's 20 years old, and he skipped college, went on to workforce, worked his way up, became a regional sales manager, and asked those questions of like, wait, why are we doing this? You know, and as a younger company he works with, and he's broken all the records that they've had, and he's only been there for 3 or 4 months, and they're like, who is this kid? You know, but he started asking questions, and they let him run with it. They're like, they gave him a whole nother state. They're like, try it out, and it worked. And he's now he's now going, you know, and he might unfortunately be moving, you know, to that state, but you know, he's taken over an entire state, you know, with 3 big cities and everything else. And it was just because he was thinking, you know, why are we doing it this way? It's taking like 3-4 times the amount if we just did it this way, and then let's do this. And it worked, and they're making, I mean, he's making, I think 4 times the amount of money for the company. And they're like, let's just let him run with it, you know? And he's the youngest one there, but he's the only one that really has that critical thinking, you know, right when it needs to, where he's at. You know, and so he's surpassing people that's been there for years. But it's once you learn to love to learn, and that critical thinking, I mean, it just, and especially now, like we said, you know, the kids who can learn this now, that's where they're going to stand apart. Yeah. You know, you want kids to stand apart and stand past their peers. You know, this is it. This is the lack, and that's why I love always talking to you, because we get into these conversations about it's how you do things and how you teach. And so we're going to be winding down here, but I again, last month I said it, and I'll say it again. We got to do some more things together and come up with a topic and do something, because one, I think that's fun, and two, you know, I really want to keep highlighting what you do, because I think if it's, you know, if you're looking for a curriculum in the science, you're not going to be able to find a better one. If you need an add-on to already, if you've picked one curriculum for all of it, you know, you're going to need something else. So you got tutoring, Learning Center Online can help you with, and then also the recitation classes. You know, those are key things for your kids to keep learning and learn a different way, and have an expert in that field help and teach your kids I think it's critically important for you guys to look at that. So click on the links, go out to Homeschool Connect Expo, go out to the exhibitor booth for Learning Center Online, click, check out there's some really cool videos and information, click, go out to the website, and if you have any questions, just ask, ask us, jump on, ask them and you're not gonna, you're gonna love it. Yeah. And your kids, like you said, sometimes they might hound you a little bit because it's going to be different, but they're going to love it. And it's something that it's going to keep with them, which is awesome.
I had a student. The reason I'm starting my own business is because this one student, he just told his parents and he's going to West Point. So this is not a slouch. This is a serious student. He said, and it sounds a little bragging, but I'm just saying what he said, and it's on my website. He goes, "There's no teacher like him.
Yeah.
I need to have Mr. Riesen again." So he's actually taking a physics class with me.
Wow.
And his parents said he always talks about me. Every teacher is compared to Mr. Riesen. And it's because of the critical thinking piece. It's because he went from being a good student to a great student. And it's hands-on, it's practical. And speaking of which, my best class, when I teach physical science, there's a lot of fundamental stuff. So it's very broad, very shallow, kind of go at it, but I make it fun. Same with chemistry. Chemistry is very deep. It's one of the most challenging courses in high school beside the AP classes and the IB classes. And kids really struggle with it. So, I lay it out a certain way, but physics is like my baby. It's like lab oriented because physics, come on, physics is everything. There's not one thing you can do. Every athlete today, I mean, we used to say, is this athlete better than, the one 50 years ago? Yes. I'm sorry, hands down, yes. One word, physics.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have video cameras. They didn't have computer analysis in the past. We do now. And so you have this practical application of physics in every area of life, from dentistry to medicine to even history, putting things together using a physics point of view. And my class, I don't lecture at all. I give them the notes and say, there's the notes. Okay, now let's go do this. Even online, I'll say, okay, open up the lab. It's either a video or they can actually go do something. Go do it for a few minutes. Come on back. Let's talk about it. It's so practical. I love the class. I'm developing it right now. I just finished first semester.
Okay.
And I love it. I do a whole segment on static electricity and magnetism that's literally entirely hands-on.
Wow.
You build a little structure with styrofoam cups, fishing line, and a couple straws, and then you can test many, many items. And you can learn, what does it mean to be charged? What does it mean to be neutral? What does it mean to be grounded? Is magnetism and static the same? It's all 100% hands-on, and we do it right during class, online.
That's
so
awesome.
These are the kind of things that parents aren't aware of, and you're not going to get that with another person because they don't have the depth, they don't have the experience, and they don't have the ability to implement it.
Yeah.
Brag. Sorry.
No, that's awesome. I mean, and that's something that you need to do because people.
I'm doing this not to make money.
Yeah.
God told me to teach. I was going to quit. I was done. My wife even said when I told her, I think I need to continue teaching. She's like, you wanted to quit 2 years ago. I said, yeah, I did. But the Lord said, no, he created this gift.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is, I only want 5 or 6 kids at a shot.
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing it this way. So this is not about making money. I've taught always 120 to 150. You can't teach that many.
No.
You can reach out to a few. Now I want to teach 15 to 20 max all together. And then I can pour into them, whether it's through a recitation review class, whether it's through tutoring or whether it's through an actual course itself. I want to be able to give my gifts, especially the critical thinking piece, to the students.
Well, that's awesome. And we'll leave it there because that just shows your heart, shows what you're looking to do and what you want to do, and where the Lord's leading you. And everybody jump online, check them out, because it's really cool. And if you got a kid, middle school to high school, really check it out and get involved, and really know and learn what Learning Center Online is all about, because we just heard it. I mean, right there. So awesome. And before we leave, is there anything else that you might want to share and let people know?
Well, we pretty much hit it, so maybe I'll just summarize it all. Many of you parents, you have a curriculum already in mind. You've been with it. You've got a community or a co-op that you're with. You're already integrated with a bunch of people, but many have spoken this. They want an expert in the field, because especially math and science, it gets beyond even the normal teacher. You want someone with a lot of experience, someone with the ability to practically apply and implement into your student the learning process to help them think critically. So I offer not only the courses, but maybe that's not for you now. And I've had it here, but I'm emphasizing the recitation classes. It can begin with just me and another student meeting once a week for 15 minutes, or get a group of students, an hour and a half, where it's like an office hour. They come, they ask the questions, and they will still get me. They will still get the learning, inquiry-based, critical thinking to bring them to a higher level. Tutoring, that is the way I tutor. I don't just tutor to give them answers and to get them through chemistry or biology or physics or whatever, or science. It would be to help them learn how to think, to help them learn how to prepare for a test, to help them take a test, and to help them be able to think for when they go to college, they're not going to be thrown off guard.
There you go. There you go. I mean, that is an awesome way to end it. Everyone jump on. The links are there. Go out, exhibitor booth, go out to the website and get involved and get your kids involved in Learning Center Online. Hey, appreciate it. Thank you for being a part of this. I really do. We'll talk soon, Craig.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Take care.